Good morning and thank you for joining us. I'm Spencer Tillis.
And I'm Trayvon Miles.
And this is the Delmarva Sports Insider. Coming up in just a few minutes, Polytech boys basketball was looking to keep their perfect start to the season going, but could the Panthers get it done against Cape?
And Y High girls basketball taking a trip to the graveyard to see the Lady Crabbers in a big-time Bayside South matchup.
And it is winter. That means wrestling season is in full swing as well. Mardella was looking to win their first dual meet of the year, but could they get it done against the Colonels? We'll stick around to find out. But we begin today with what was easily the game of the week. Thursday night, Parkside also undefeated, looking to stay that way when they hosted their rival Bennett. I tell you what, this game had a lot of hype going into it. It's one of those rare times where a game actually lived up to every piece of it. Bennett had a lead going into the fourth because of plays like this. Jordan Duffy with a great look finds Michael Jean Charles, who finishes 4-2, but the Rams would pick up their defensive pressure. Devin Redding, a monster block. That starts the break. And then check out Dejor Diggs over at the other end, glides in a little up and under, takes the bump, finishes for the and one. Rams back within 6, and the home crowd was starting to feel it. A couple possessions later, Parkside, another steal, this time Diggs. And check out Colin Gaynor. This is an everyday thing for this kid, a monster jam. Parkside would eventually take a 2-point lead with 30 seconds left, but Duffy says, I'll take those two plus one more with the end when he had 30 on the night. Free throws gave Parkside a 3-point lead with seconds left, and then Tyke Young, tie ball game. Diggs not going to call a timeout, takes this thing all the way up the court and gets the blocking call right there. One more look at it. Tough to judge on that one. You call it what you see it right there, but he does hit the second free throw, puts his team back out in front by a point. And then Bennett can do nothing with this with just a couple ticks left. Parkside survives an absolute thriller, 82-81 the final there. And man, I tell you what, this game had everything. The fans too in this bowl sections absolutely going nuts the entire time. Everything you look for it. But looking at it down the stretch, I mean, this is a tough loss for the Bennett team. I mean, they had 5 turnovers in the last 3 minutes. They were up 9 with 3 minutes to go. You got one of the best players in the entire Bayside. You would think you have an opportunity to close it out. They looked rattled. They couldn't handle that pressure, and they gave too many easy buckets to the Rams. And once you kind of start turning it over, the Rams are a team that are going to execute in the open court. They're going to make you pay for that, and they did in this game. So the Clippers really got to be kicking themselves right now.
No moral victories in this one, but Bennett, I can't believe that they had Parkside on the ropes. When you have Parkside on the ropes, especially at their house, you have to finish the game. One thing I want to talk about is the individual matchups. 2 of the best players, Jordan Duffy and Dejor Diggs, going at it. Those 2 will be back and forth all year for Bayside Player of the Year honors. But how about the Rams? 20 points in the final 4 minutes at home with a rowdy crowd to win the game.
That's what I'm talking about. You gotta play better defense than that.
Doesn't get any better than that, man.
You look at the whole game, they had them on the ropes, and then that last 3 minutes, last 4 minutes, they just fell apart, and you got to be kicking yourself there.
Some great individual performances anyway.
Yeah, guys, I'll give Parkside some credit. You're right about that.
But on to another great matchup going down on Friday when Y High took their talents to Worcester County to take on Pocomoke. Battle of the undefeated, so you know the crowd was ready for this one. But Y High, they were ready too. Torrey Brittingham with the laser finds Jordan Brittingham underneath for 2. Indians up 9 after 1. Pocomoke fighting back now, getting it done how they always do in the open court. Tyler Nixon gets that transition layup to go. Later on, Raymere Smith spots up, and with Smith, you know it's going down. Home team pumped, and all of a sudden, we are tied at 39 at the half. Second half, Y High settles down. Torrey Brittingham gets 2 of his 15 to go as the Indians take this one 68-62. And you know what, Spencer? We talked about this one. I told you I had no idea who I thought was going to go down and get that win. But one thing that I've known all along is that you cannot count out a Butch Waller coach team. This team honestly doesn't look like much outside of the starters, but the way that coaching staff prepares those young men ultimately makes all the difference to go on the road and get a tough win.
That's true, and the fact is they played a pretty bad game against the Crabbers just a couple days before that. They bounced back. This was a huge road win, but to me, this one was more about what happened in the game that Pocomoke lost. Raymere Smith rolls his ankle. He was carrying that Warriors team, and then all of a sudden, as soon as he doesn't come back in, you kind of see the offense start to sputter. I mean, he is the engine that really makes that team go. If you ask me, your Indians got pretty lucky in this one, and they should be counting their blessings right now. And this is also just a tough loss for Pocomoke.
A win is a win.
I guess that's what it goes in the book as. Well, let's take things back to Tuesday afternoon where there was a great matchup going on over in Dagsboro. Indian River was looking to get back on the right track, get a much-needed win at home. They were taking on a pretty dangerous Sussex Tech team, that is. The Ravens on the run here early on. Jamont Matthews gets it on the trail, goes up with the finger roll, glides in for the deuce right there, and then the Indians came right back, especially this guy. Kewan Major had himself a game. Goes to the left hand right there. He is left-handed, but he gets the finish. But back comes Tech and Shawan Sykes, the double clutch, splitting the two defenders. He gets that one to go. His team had an 8-point lead going into the fourth, and then Major trying to do his thing one more time. The long ball, three of his game-high 34 points, because that's what this guy does. He gets buckets. His team back within 3, but Sykes puts this thing away one more time. The tough lay-in. Sussex Tech gets the win, 68-62. And despite what you say, I'm telling you, Major gets buckets. This kid is legit. He is good. But you're also right. They don't seem to be getting too many wins right now. And honestly, I look at what happened right now in Indian River. They got to figure some things out. They got enough talent on this team. They're just not quite disciplined enough, I think, on both sides of the court. The part that really upsets me is you look at the offensive end. They go through certain spurts where there's no ball movement, there's no rotations, there's no real movement, and it's too much standing and watching Kiwan try and make a play. They got to figure something out. I think they need to put in a little bit more plays, become a little bit more system-oriented, and I think if they do that, they could be a very dangerous team, but you're already starting to get in a little bit of the season. You got to figure this out pretty soon.
You're right. Kiwan does get buckets, but Indian River needs to get wins. You can't figure out IR, and I cannot figure out Tech. They got the win against Indian River, but a couple days ago on the road, lose to a Smyrna team that's certainly not as talented as they are. They have certainly played a tough schedule so far, but some consistency here would definitely not hurt the Ravens.
Hey, don't sleep on Smyrna right now. They're not looking too bad.
Not looking too bad. And speaking of consistency, Laurel basketball has had a very hot start to their season. The Bulldogs look to keep it rolling Friday night as they hosted Lake Forest. Laurel coming in undefeated and Lake coming in winless. You thought this one would be a blowout. Certainly looked that way earlier. Ray Pachicho gets the foul there, and the Dogs were up 18 going into the fourth, but the fourth got interesting. Lake cuts the lead to single digits, and DJ Cornish was spotted and hit a 3 from the elbow. Ooh. Laurel inbounding and muffs a pass, and Dominique Griffin would get the steal and the layup to go, and all of a sudden we have a 1-point game. But Chucky August, he did it in football season, now with the rock in his hand, goes up between two defenders and gets the left-hand layup to go. Laurel survives the scare 69-68, and man, what a game. First of all, give all credit to Lake. They were down at one point by 25, but kept plugging away. What a heartbreaker that would have been for Laurel. I'm sure Coach Sean Phillips definitely will be on his kids about how to hold on to a big lead. While they almost lost, the fact is that they didn't, and they are still sitting here undefeated.
It is very like you to always be supportive for the Laurel team, and I get it. You know, it worked out for you in football season, but this is a different sport right now. And you can't blow 25-point leads at home to a winless team like that. Granted, they got the win and they are still undefeated, but that is a sign of immaturity. That's a sign of lack of leadership that you need down the stretch. And maybe you get away with that against a Lake team, but you start going against a Dover, you start going against a Polytech, a Sussex Tech, you're not coming back from that. If you open up the door against teams that are that good, they're going to come back and they're going to punish you for making mistakes like that down the stretch.
I totally agree with that.
I think Coach Phillips is definitely going to talk to his boys a little bit, and I'm sure they had a joyful locker room afterwards.
It's not going to be quiet. It's going to be some yelling.
If I know anything about Coach Phillips, he was definitely encouraging his boys ready to get going.
Well, of course, those were just some of the games we were at this weekend. Where else should we be? Contact us at 47 ABC Sports on Twitter and Facebook, and let us know what games you'd like to see.
But it's time for our first commercial break, but do not go anywhere, because on the other side, it is still high school hoops. Delmar, undefeated, heading into showdown against Milford, but could they keep it that way? Stay tuned to find out.
Hey, my name's Chucky August. I am a starting guard for Laurel Bulldog basketball, and you're watching the Marvel Sports Insider.